Hello and welcome. You're watching FYI. For your information, I'm Gargi Rawat. Today we're going to discuss the future of the workplace. It's been over a year and a half since the pandemic struck, and as we return to work, the business world has an unprecedented opportunity to reimagine itself. Many experts believe that the pre-COVID office model may be on the way out, and a hybrid system is the future of the workplace. Many experts believe this system will be agile, experimental, empathetic. It will support remote arrangements, and only a few employees will be physically required in the office on select days. In fact, Sundar Pichai, in a letter to Google employees, had said that the future of work is flexibility, as he announced a hybrid work week, while Microsoft Satya Nadella talked about the hybrid work paradox. What is that? We'll tell you all about it. But let me introduce our guests now. We're joined by Choco Valiappa, founder and CEO, V Technologies, Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani, National President, Naredco, K. Ganesh, entrepreneur and promoter, Portia Medical, Big Basket, Fresh Menu, and Deepa Prem Kumar, partner at Flintrock Consulting. Thank you so much all for joining us on this very, very exciting topic and, reimagining the workplace. First to you, Choco Valiappa, if you could tell us about what's your experience been like over this last 2 years.
It's been an interesting facet where we never thought that ever any of our work would be done at home, and then overnight we literally had to pivot into being 3,000 offices and people working from home. But what's been interesting is, as we've gone through the journey, we realized that a lot of our lower-end workers, employees, 30% of their salary was going towards house rent in Chennai, Bangalore, or any of the cities. And they're not here now. When we were trying to do a vaccination drive, we realized that in their hometowns. And then we realized that perhaps what we need to do is to create kind of hives. So we call it V hives, where they live and work together. So this is what we're trying to get away from bigger offices into smaller offices in smaller cities, smaller towns. And that's perhaps going to smaller towns like Salem, Tiruchi, Hubli. So
on one hand, your employees have moved away from the big cities to smaller towns, to probably their hometowns. If you could tell us more about this V hives, what is it all about?
So it's we're trying to reimagine workplace and saying that, you need to develop a culture so you can create more bonding if they live and work together. So they literally so one floor is their house, apartments, and the another floor is their office. So and then each office becomes a training center or a multimedia room, but you also use it for training. So it's a kind of a hybrid co-living, co-working space. And so we feel that's the best way, so that we make this free living for them. So we literally house them in our own offices. So
and that's for certain periods, and then there's a changeover.
Exactly. So after 2-3 years, we reckon that they can go live on their own, and they prefer to do that. And I think that's going to be the hybrid office. So what we're going to think now is we're thinking offices are going to become more cafes, and cafes are going to become more offices. So.
All right. Dr. Hiranandani, your comments on this. What is your view on, the workplace going into the future, this hybrid model, and what does it mean for realty?
The hybrid model is a very tricky one. Some people love it and some people hate it. I know people who are staying at home, who have got their spouses at home, have 2 children at home, and they're just not able to cope up because it's not possible for all 4 of them to be on the screen and be able to work efficiently and do it. So many of them have to push into bigger houses and things like that. Some people just want to get back to the workplace. And whether you call it a beehive or you call it some other name, but I promise you, the social endeavor needs many of these people wanting to come back to it. But what Choco really puts across is a kind of a hub and spoke model, which could be there, where some people would love to do it at home. And I think it's wonderful for women, especially when they want to look after their children and also continue their work. There would be opportunities to do this kind of a thing, but I have seen CEOs, senior lawyers go into Goa, Alibag and other places, and they've been able to work very, very efficiently. So yes, the change has happened, and this is not going to, clock is not going to go back. But having said that, to think that the office as a model is going to disappear is not going to happen. There are some IT companies which had made a statement that they're going to now have only 25% people in offices. And just now, the parent company in New York has said everyone is to work back into the office because the efficiency has dropped. So you're going to get both the models, but the model will never be the same again. That is certain.
Well, that is certain. K. Ganesh, if you could share with us, what have you seen and, what do you feel about this hybrid model and what it means for efficiency? Of course, it won't work for, every industry, every type of office, but yes, your comments.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that clearly is a difference between sectors that it's more amenable to working, sectors less likely to work. So that's clearly one. Two, depending on, if you take typical customer support, the role will from anywhere, access the same software. But if you're talking about corporate planning, strategizing, doing thinking, collaborative, that's more face to face. So really there are differences between roles and.
All right, K. Ganesh, we'll just try and fix the audio with you. We're having a bit of a problem, and this is the problem with, doing a lot of technology. Everything has to move smoothly. We'll just fix that audio with you. But Deepa Prem Kumar, now this is something you've been focusing on a lot, this sort of new world, as it were, of this hybrid model and what it means for leaders, what it means for employees, and your comments about what the findings have been in terms of employee happiness, and what are the drawbacks of it?
Sure. We're a firm which focuses on helping companies change, and the way we see it, hybrid is possibly the biggest change all organizations are living through at this moment. And what we believe is hybrid, though the word says it's a combination of two things, it is grossly incorrect to think of it as a combination. Or, we used to work from office for so many days, and we can now just work from home for a few days or work from anywhere for a few days. So taking that default approach to hybrid is possibly the mistake that many organizations will make at this point. Hybrid work will have to be designed. And while organizations can look at what other companies are doing, they can't follow a benchmark. They will have to look at what their context is, what their needs is. And two, organizations will need to restructure their work, their policies, and their tools to be able to enable employees to work well in hybrid modes. It means a few difficult conversations. Will compensation change because employees are working from different places? Will inequalities be addressed? Of course, it's a great balancer. It gives you access to more talent, but how are you going to ensure that all of them are given equal opportunity? Sometimes if some employees are in office and some are remote, then out of sight becomes out of mind. They will lose out on promotions. They will become second-class citizens in the same organization. So that means that organizations will have to approach this in a thought-through, well-designed manner. They will need to design their policies and processes to support employees. The pandemic forced all of us to work from home. And many organizations will now think, okay, we've learned this. We're going to ask employees to come into office for a few days, and we're hybrid. No, you're not. Hybrid means that you have to intentionally recreate work, processes, and tools. And we do a lot of research in this place. We publish a lot of work in this space. And the opinions are out there. In a study conducted by Accenture, for instance, they said 83% employees clearly wanted a hybrid work. But like Microsoft's study was saying, there is something called a hybrid paradox, where employees are saying, sure, I want to work from home, I want to work from anywhere, but I also want the opportunity to come in and collaborate with people, work with other people, meet other people. So companies will have to design for all of this.
Right, that's very fascinating. So, the hybrid paradox and no one size fits all. And K. Ganesh, if you could come in here, Deepa was talking about how there's no one single blueprint. This is something each company will have to see what works for itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we have seen in our experiences, obviously there are companies like Potia Medical where the healthcare workers has to go home. There is a physical brick and mortar element of the work. There are other planning aspects which can be done either from home or there, but people have to go. Similarly, you take big basket, the delivery has to happen. That cannot happen anywhere else. There's a physical delivery that's happening. But what's really interesting is we are also seeing people extending their homes by creating more spaces, creating more workspaces at home so that they are able to actually work from there. And we have also had requests from a lot of women who, it's a two-edged sword. One, they like working from home, but it's also a big challenge because women bear the maximum brunt of domestic work as well as office work at the same time. So we are now seeing fatigue there. So what companies need to do and what individuals need to do is to find a way in which especially the women employees are able to do justice to both. Otherwise, they are getting a very heavy burnout. Another point I want to add is, like it has happened with PPO, the software industry is waiting for permanent relaxation of SEZ rules so that even remote working are eligible for tax exemption. Otherwise, currently with the policy not being clear after the lockdown gets over, they will be forced to come to office because they will lose the tax benefit if they work from home. Already it has happened in PPO, it needs to happen in software. That's my understanding. So that's a policy level change also would help. I think we will see a huge explosion of software tools, and already we heard about process change, so that people are able to collaboratively work from home and get almost the same efficiency and efficacy they had when they were working together. We still have not seen it because people have been busy trying to handle the pandemic. But if you ask me to fast forward next 5 years, we will see new tools, new processes, which makes it possible for us, just like the way we are doing this program. Earlier, you would have sent.
I was just thinking of that. Earlier, we'd have all our guests in, maybe one person joining from somewhere. And that was a disadvantage to all of you who don't live in Delhi. And now we're able to, get the best voices on an issue from any part of the country because, we're using Zoom, we're using Microsoft Teams, we're using all sorts of technology for this. So that's very fascinating. Choco Valiappa, if you could, talk about something that the other guests have spoken about burnout and some of the employees not being able to manage very well, though of course the issue of having children also in the same house, everybody on devices, will hopefully be resolved in a month or two, maybe if children do go back to schools. But going forward, if you could tell us what the experience of the employees has been like.
Yeah, in fact, I was having a chat. I have coffee with a few employees every week in routine, and today was one of those calls. So they were saying that work at home is one thing and work from home is another thing. So I was asking him, what do you mean? He said, when I work at home, that means people think that, I have to do home chores and, these kind of things. So that's where flexibility comes in. So you need to allow people to work in the night or day, or when the children are sleeping, perhaps, or when people are sleeping, you could do work, and you have flexible working hours. And then one of the things that we are doing is trying to see what is the list of things that our employees are doing at home, and what time is it getting occupied, and how is it that we can help them in terms of we were looking at remote areas where they're not getting deliveries of stuff, or where Wi-Fi issues are bad. So how can we work as a company and say that there is a group of people, and so we want to help this cohort of people, and also look at health and wellness. So we're looking at they're working at home, and we are insisting that they get vaccinated, but or trying to coach them on the vaccination benefits, but their families are not. So now we are actually having counseling sessions in local languages, trying to get their families to understand the intricacies of getting people vaccinated and why they should. And then also looking at more on a wellness perspective. So we believe that 9/11 focused the world on security. Yes. And we believe COVID is going to focus the world on healthcare and more into wellness. So we are trying to get all our employees on a predictive wellness health checkup, being a healthcare company ourselves.
Right.
So we are trying to do what we're doing in the US in terms of trying to do predictive healthcare, and then trying to see how do we mitigate the risks of them, that so that there wouldn't be ramifications later. So keeping the employees healthy. So I think those kind of things are going to come in more. And one of the biggest things that I heard earlier was, very often we used to come to office because we believe that people worked at office. So we had more control. So today, with technology tools that there are, I think we're able to have total ownership of the work that they're doing in terms of actually trying to see what they're doing to a minute level, which we were not doing when they were at office because we assumed that they were working because they were under our nose. Right. But right now, through technology, you can have much greater insights as to how they're working. So that's one is ownership, another one is controls.
Okay, Dr. Hiranandani, you know, what does this now mean for realty and office spaces going forward? And you were talking about, you know, value offices and the need to, you know, how things are going to change now, even office spaces and what is being offered by employers is going to change.
Gargi, you'll be shocked. Everything is getting redesigned to the T. Homes are having bedrooms where I'm making furniture where you can push up the bed and convert it into an office. And
you
I'm
don't have
getting
the bed in the background
offices,
as you're doing your conferences. Yeah.
and I'm getting in offices where the space where people were crowded to the T and you had 20 people in a small space. Now only 7 or 8 are there because everybody wants more space in view of the COVID situation. People want the hub and spoke, which Choco talked about in the beehive kind of thing. So you're finding the remoter areas, suburban areas, development, lots and lots of offices moving to the suburbs where residential people are also staying, and the possibility of workspaces in terms of these kind of activities is taking place. So we are doing a total redesign. But one thing is in common. Everybody wants an upgrade of the quality of life they are leading. This is another amazing thing which has happened.
No, absolutely.
Around the residential space, they want all the facilities. They've been stuck at home. They want their children's school nearby. They want a hospital nearby. They want facilities nearby. They want a running track, a clubhouse nearby. So the homes are getting this thing, and for us, one good thing is everybody is upgrading the size of their home. So that's another big thing which has happened. Those who can afford it, of course.
But offices getting smaller, office space is reducing.
No, Gargi, one important thing. The quality of the offices are improving. Somehow or the other, we see the owners, the management want quality of offices improving. And this is something I had not seen before. People were otherwise squeezed into a box and made to work over there. Today, you're seeing a lot of differences in the type of offices, at least the newer ones which we are designing now. You'll be amazed to see how the quality has changed and what facilities are made available. It's amazing. It's amazing beyond me. I never imagined all this.
All right, well, that's absolutely fascinating. And yes, everybody's, you know, rethinking life choices, rethinking priorities. We'll slip into a short break and come back with more. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, we're discussing the future of the workplace and the hybrid model and how things are not going to go back to what they were before the COVID pandemic. Deepa Premkumar, if you could tell us about what are the time and place principles of hybrid work?
That's an interesting one, Gargi. And I'm going to pick up on the place angle which Dr. Niranjan was talking about, saying companies are investing so much into making the office spaces come alive. And I'm not surprised because we're now in a case of homeostasis. Work from home or work from anywhere else is the default for us. And companies are having to work harder to convince employees that they have to come into office. Because they've proved this last year, the productivity hasn't dropped, work can get done from anywhere, and they don't need the level of supervision which all companies thought that they needed. They've been able to deliver all of that. So now companies are having to convince employees saying you have to come back to office and the office will give you a few benefits, right? Rather than the other way around. And that's where the two principles of time and place comes about. This is a research published by Future Forum. It's an interesting one where they say 93% of employees are asking for flexibility in time. I think Choco also brought up that point, saying, can I work later when my kids are asleep? Can I work a different time? So the time principle is, can you design work in a way that it can be done asynchronously?
All right, so that's something that companies will have to focus on. K. Ganesh, so clearly priorities have changed post-pandemic, and employee welfare is a big focus. I just want to ask you about what does it mean for the young people entering the workspace, because office culture, office politics is also something. If you're good at it, it can help you rise faster. And what does it mean for young people? I really like to know about that, because older people, of course, for them it's great they're working from home, but for the young people.
See, for the young people, even before the pandemic started, this entire gig economy, freelancing, work not as a lifetime employment at a corporate where you clock in and clock out, but you do projects and you get paid a lot based on the output than on the specific time that you spend at your office. All this had already become the norm. The pandemic and the COVID in work from home has proved that the efficiency can be achieved, output can be achieved equally well in this. So for the young people, the future will be more of gig economy, lot of flexibility. Work from home, the place is only one flexibility, but more importantly, you don't have a reporting boss. You get paid for a certain level of work that you do and output that you do, and you work in teams, and you can take multiple assignments in that particular manner. That is the way work will go. The time that you join a Tata house or a Birla house and retire after 35 years, that has gone. And the work from home and the pandemic and the software tools aids in the move towards gig economy, more flexibility, especially for the young generation.
All right. Well, thank you so much all for joining us on this very fascinating subject. And of course, it is a whole new world, as they say, and a totally different way of working going forward into the future. Thank you so much for watching and joining us.